work session meeting to order. This is a work session of the Mayor and Borough Council of the Borough of Seaside Park, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, held on Thursday, March 5th, 2026, advertised for 7 p.m. Pursuant to the provisions of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting was properly provided by posting the notice of the meeting on the official borough website on March 3rd, 2026. Notice the meeting of the governing body has been posted in the corridor of the municipal building and in the office of the borough clerk. This meeting also was published as per the Open Public Meetings Act back in January 2026. Roll call.
Councilmember Condos?
Here.
Councilmember Connor?
Here.
Councilmember Kraft?
Here.
Councilmember Rotunda?
Here.
Councilmember Toth?
Here.
Council President Wilk?
Here.
Mayor Peterson?
Here.
Thank you.
And as implied in the aforementioned March 3rd notice, this meeting is also being live streamed, and that too is occurring, albeit I look out and there are some 30 open seats out there, so anyone who wished to come here in person certainly could do so. The focus of this work session will entail an informational presentation, and no formal action will be taken. We welcome the professionals involved for Seaside Park that have been working diligently at the direction of the governing body for some period of time. We have with us this evening for the presentation of the planner's report on annexation, Seaside Park's long-term planner, Kendra Lely of Kyle McManus Associates. And we also have with us this evening the representatives of the government strategy group consultant employed by Seaside Park for some period of time. And we welcome Mr. Ken DeRoberts and Sharon Roundtree. We have our special counsel here who's been working with us as lead counsel in the annexation matter, and that is Ms. Jean Cipriani. And we have our counsel as well, who is here, Mr. Zabarski. At this juncture, will turn the floor over to our professionals, and they will be here and can make any kind of a summary presentation. We can have, we've had several information sessions over time previously, whereby questions were asked, comments were entertained, and those were taken into account and incorporated into the annexation impact study of the government strategy group in particular. And the presentation from our planner, Kendra Lely, has been the subject matter of prior meetings before Seaside Park's Planning Board, at which time we also had a public presentation on her report. So with that, perhaps I'll turn some initial comments to Special Counsel. Ms. Cipriani is here with us.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to just stand over here, so hopefully I can address the council and the public simultaneously. I'm not going to be lengthy, and then maybe somebody else will want to take my preferable seat. And to some extent, I'm not going to go on at length, because I feel like if you're here in this room, you've probably heard this presentation before. Certainly the governing body has heard it ad nauseum. We've gone over a number of times what the procedure is that's laid out in the statute for annexation. And everyone is well aware of the first part of this, which was a almost 10-year process, involved Berkeley Township and the application and the time before the planning board, and then with the governing body, and then there were numerous court cases culminating in a decision of the New Jersey Supreme Court, which found that the petitioners from South Seaside Park had met the three-pronged test and therefore we're able to move forward with a request to Seaside Park's governing body to consider annexation. And the public and the governing body have displayed tremendous patience through this process. So one of the prongs in that three-prong test that has to be met, and it has to be met with regarding the land, the town that is being left, and the town to which the petitioners want to join, that being Seaside Park. And there's an obligation that the governing body act in a way that is not arbitrary or capricious, and specifically that they review the petition in an open-minded and unbiased manner, and I'm quoting directly from the Supreme Court case, and conduct the proceedings fairly and objectively, assessing the evidence before it. And that, when I talk about the patience that's been displayed by the governing body and the public, has been the process here. We're going to hear the reports. Those reports have been put up online. There is also, it was supposed to have been the day of the storm, going to be a presentation before the planning board on specifically the planning report as well, which was supposed to have taken place before this one, but we'll stop the rain and nobody's going to stop 2 feet of snow. So it's moved to this point. What's going to happen now is as the mayor said, there will be no action taken tonight following this presentation and the opportunity for the governing body and the public to ask questions. There will be an ordinance that would be set forth in order to do annexation. There is, it must be done by ordinance. It must be 2/3 of the governing body, in this case a vote of 4. So it will be on for first reading. If it goes past first reading, then it will be on for second reading. If it were adopted on second reading, then when that ordinance is effective, as soon as it is effective, which is really upon publication, then South Seaside Park immediately becomes part of Seaside Park. So all of the laws that govern Seaside Park would also govern South Seaside Park. So that's going to be a tremendous expansion. You will see on the agenda, therefore, for the 19th and 30th, when those ordinances, the ordinance for annexation is there, a bunch of zoning ordinances, so that, which simply mirror those that are currently in place for the South Seaside Park section of Berkeley Township. They mirror Berkeley's ordinances, so there's a continuation. There is zoning in place. The intention is then to review in timely fashion those sections and put in place ordinances that reflect Seaside Park's planning objectives, and make some other changes as well, but that can be done in a slower time frame. The only other things that I want to point out for tonight are that as the governing body is considering this, I talked about the prongs. The first prong being that the governing body acted in a way that was arbitrary and capricious, or in this case, what we're trying to do is act in a way that is not arbitrary and capricious, because we've got a lot of information that's been gathered and provided. We've provided a lot of opportunity for public input. But the Supreme Court has already determined that the second prong is met, and I think it's important for people to understand that. That prong is that the Supreme Court has determined that would be detrimental to the economic and social well-being of a majority of South Seaside Park's residents if the annexation did not provide. So if the governing body says no, based on the information that it's received, based on the response of the public, that is the hurdle that we will have to get over as well. And the only other point I want to make is that should this matter go forward, if annexation were to go forward, then more of that patience to which I alluded is going to be required, both of the residents of Seaside Park, the current residents, and the new residents, because as you will have seen in the report, and as I'm sure you'll hear tonight, the process of incorporating another section into the town is going to be a slow one. Obviously, if the governing body determines to take that step, We'll do the best that we can to provide basic services as quickly as possible, but that there will have to be some patience. That's going to take a period of time, and the statutory process does not allow really for that to be done ahead of time, because there's no way that you're going to want to have Seaside Park hiring people, buying equipment, expanding things, without being sure that you are indeed going to go forward with the annexation. And as I had also discussed at prior meetings, almost immediately after, and so if there is a second reading, you will see a resolution to establish a committee of 3 members. There'll be a committee of 3 people from Seaside Park, chosen by the governing body, a committee of 3 people from Berkeley Township, chosen by the Berkeley Township's governing body. They will meet at 10 o'clock in the morning on the Monday following the effective date of the ordinance to begin what can be no more than a 60-day process to try and work out any financial arrangements. So that would include any portion of Berkeley Township's debt that is attributable to South Seaside Park, and anything else that they want to bring forward that they think is appropriate. Obviously, Seaside Park will be able to respond if they cannot come to an agreement. So out of those 6 people, two teams of 3, in order for a report to be adopted, it requires a vote of 4. So somebody would have to be persuaded. In the extremely likely event that neither Team Seaside Park nor Team Berkeley has a participant who is persuaded by the other side, it will go to the court. Court will appoint 3 people, and then that determination will be made on the financial side, and that is binding, whatever is determined by the court. So it's an odd process. I hope that provides some explanation of what you can kind of expect to see going forward. For this tonight, there is no question of any kind of action. It's really just for information, but those ordinances will be coming up fairly shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. And do we have, Mr. Dodds, do you want to summarize where we are? And
Sure.
I think everyone's well familiar, and we certainly echo the sentiments placed on the record previously by yourself as well as Sharon of the civil, if not very courteous manner in which this entire process has taken place to date. And everyone involved is to be commended for that, including those who spoke out and made comments and offered questions, as well as your group. So I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Ken Roberts, Government Strategy Group. First, I want to thank the Mayor and Council for having confidence in us to prepare such a comprehensive and important report. And I especially want to do a few shout outs. I'd like to thank your special counsel, Ms. Cipriani, who's been very, very helpful to us. And especially kudos to your borough clerk, Jenna Jankowski, and your borough administrator, Karen Kroon, who've been extremely helpful, as has been the management team from Seaside Park, very helpful. So the first part of the study of what we did is had to gather data. And we probably gathered enough data to probably fill half this room with paper if we didn't use digital ink. And had to then, once we did that, and then conducted numerous interviews, and then had to assess and analyze everything. So it's a comprehensive task. And Sharon Roundtree, our president, who's here with us, she's the author of the report. She put it all together. She had to get information from our entire team. And just to give you some depth of what our team consisted of, we have 3 members here. Gary Absarni, who's a public utility expert. Vince Denab, who's not only a former borough administrator, but also a civil engineer. And Joe Pruitti, who's a retired finance director from a major county here in New Jersey, who's not here. We had a former police chief, Shannon Torres, on our team. We had Doug Marvin, former administrator, doing a lot of administrative review type of information. We had Jennifer Naughton, our information technology specialist, Ted Monticello, who's a real estate appraiser and assessor in many communities. He's very familiar with the Ocean County area.
Excuse me, Ken, I'm sorry, I think people are having trouble hearing. I don't know if this microphone travels.
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay.
You can pull it out and,
First stand there, we don't want to go back.
So those are the people, sorry about that. So everybody had to go through and analyze all the data points, do a lot of interviews, and we even met with representatives from Berkeley Township. And I would also like to thank them for their cooperation in supplying much needed information to us. And as the mayor alluded, we had several public information sessions. Everybody has been very civil and cooperative and very willing to assist us all along the way. And then putting the report together, the analysis was quite comprehensive. There were so many issues that had to be addressed and discussed internally amongst our team. And Sharon had the distinction of having to put this all together and put together a comprehensive report, which is almost 300 pages. So there's a lot of information and data points to digest in this report. And we're very pleased we met the requirements of what you asked of us. It's an impact study. We did not make any recommendations pro-annexation or against annexation. That's up to the governing body to decide, but hopefully, I'm confident we provided substantial information for you to make a very informed and quality decision. So with that, Sharon, did you want to say a few things just to
Sure.
hit some highlights?
So, can you guys hear me? Do I need the mic?
Yeah.
Two things. I was asked to do a short presentation, and two things about me. I'm never short, and I've never been accused of being quiet. So I'll put that down. But if you need me over there, I can pick it up again. We just wanted to give a brief overview. As Ken said, the report's almost 300 pages. It's hard to kind of pare that down. We had about a dozen team members working on this report over about 5 months, 6 months. So there's a lot of information there, but kind of wanted to highlight some of it for everyone that didn't have amnesia and sit through reading the whole thing. As Ken mentioned, our purpose of this report was not to say, yes, do annexation, or no, not to. And we tried to reiterate that over and over and over in the report. It's not our decision. You guys have that lovely, lovely choice to make. Jean did a great job of outlining the process. Our great legislature has made this a challenge. Whether if the council decides to vote for annexation, it is a challenge because of the process that we must follow. And unfortunately, none of us in this room have control over that process. But one thing that we do in government often is a lot of planning and taking a lot of time. As Ms. Cipriani said, hiring individuals to come and work for the municipality, purchasing. It's not like we can go out and just buy a car next weekend if you need a new police vehicle. That takes a long time and several months. So should the governing body decide to move forward with this, the one thing that I want to reiterate, as Ms. Cipriani said, is patience is something that everybody is going to need to have, because it is going to be a long and arduous process, and there will be hiccups along the road. So what our study did, we looked at the various service areas of the municipality. So we had a general government section where we looked at things like administrative services, staffing, governance. We had an information technology expert come in, look at systems in both municipalities, see how they can mesh together, see what security concerns there might be. Public safety, looking at police, fire, EMS, and how that could be affected by possible annexation. Public utilities and infrastructure, public works and land use. And then obviously the question that everybody always wants to know is finances and the fiscal analysis. So those are kind of the broad areas that we looked at. I used to teach at Rutgers. I used to teach municipal management. And I used to say to my students, when you have a question about something in government, and you don't know the answer, just say it's finances, because that's what the heart of everything. But you really have to understand working through all of these other aspects to figure out how that will impact the finances. So at a glance, some of our key findings, is it feasible for annexation? Yes, it's feasible. But if you do decide to move forward, doing so with staffing, timing, patience, and intent, and planning it out properly and understanding that there will be those roadblocks. We estimate about $670,000 in one-time transition costs. As a rough estimate, there's going to be legal fees, there's going to be processes. We would recommend that if you decide to move forward with annexation, over a period of time, hiring probably about 13 additional employees into the borough for various roles, most of those being in public safety and public works. Big finance question, is there a possibility for a tax reduction? Yes, our estimates are between 40 and 51%. Your operating costs will increase. We're estimating in year one about $2.9 million, but that's offset by additional revenue that you would bring in. So it's financially feasible, but it's not automatic. As I said, in the public safety area, the recommendation that we put in our report would be look at potentially hiring up to 5 new police officers as a result of annexation if that goes forward. You would also need possible radio upgrades, expanded patrol coverage, and increased communications infrastructure. On the public works side, possibly hiring 3 additional employees, plus some additional seasonal employees, looking at your trucks and the differences in the street structure. So you might need to change your garbage trucks or change your method of collecting waste, possibly purchasing more equipment. And again, that can take a long time. It can take several months to obtain equipment. You have to order it, you have to go through the public purchasing process, so that's something that might be an area that you see some hiccups on if you do decide to move forward. In terms of IT, your systems are very scalable, and they actually they could potentially work well together, so getting information could be integrated relatively smoothly, but you will need mapping updates, GIS updates. You might need to expand your permitting platforms. Water and sewer are operated as separate utilities, but you would likely need a stormwater assessment, some permit transfers, and to work on some of how the separate utilities integrate with a newly annexed part of the community. I kind of went over that. So as I said, non-tax revenue, additional revenue coming into the borough, we estimate about a little less than $250,000 annually, and then all of your additional tax revenue, and as I mentioned, almost $3 million in operating expenses. As we looked at debt allocation, which Mr. Duriani had mentioned before, both sides will have to sit at Monday at 10 a.m. after this becomes effective. It's very specific in the law, interestingly, and decide how debt can be allocated. We looked at 3 methods. We can go into more detail on that, but we would recommend pushing for an assessed value method of determining how much debt Seaside Park would take on as a result of annexation, and some bond financing as it relates to that. As I said, we're estimating about 40 to 50% in tax reduction if you do decide to move forward. I'm sorry, I don't mean to not look at you. I'm trying to look at everybody. And so some financial considerations, you're expanding your tax rateable base, which is big. Understanding and moving, if you do move forward, picking a debt allocation model and pushing for a debt allocation model that is beneficial and fair. Understanding the reasonable transition, both the financial and the actual process aspect of it, and making sure that you're positioning the borough financially to take on the additional debt in a sound way. Understanding and planning for your staffing and your equipment, and making sure everyone is aware of that transition period. So that's kind of an overall analysis of the report. As I said, I could probably talk a lot longer on it, and we have team members here that are happy to answer any questions, but we were told to keep it brief, so.
Yeah, and if I may, Mayor, my suggestion is that Kendra be able to give her report and then we move to questions, so all the reports have been summarized.
That was my goal, and we do as indicated, and I agree with our special counsel. We have Kendra Lilly here, our planner, who's been the planner for the borough of Seaside Park for a considerable period of time, and Ms. Cipriani has addressed one of the issues and one of the potential questions which might be asked by the public, and that is why would the borough of Seaside Park engage in an exercise whereby we're considering a set of zoning ordinances to be introduced as to a section of the town and annexation which may or may not ever come to pass. And the simple reason is we had to wrestle with what was the hand dealt by the legislature. The legislation involved doesn't spell out any kind of process if there were an affirmative vote, and the time that that vote occurs right thereafter, there has to be zoning in place. Otherwise, you'd have the Wild West of zoning with no zoning in place. So we had to come up with what would be a fair, reasonable, and appropriate way to enact zoning and not to expend a great deal of money for something that might or might not ever happen. And the fairest and most appropriate analysis included, and this was thoroughly reviewed at the planning board level as well, when Ms. Lilly appeared and the board had a number of questions in its process. What has been proposed, and there are a set of zoning ordinances which in effect enact the zoning which is already in place in the South Seaside Park section of Berkeley Township. And also, I compliment Ms. Lilly on her study. It thoroughly looks at what are those zones, how many are there, and what are the material differences, if any, to the zoning that's in place in Seaside Park, and what are the similarities, those that are very substantially similar, and that is in her study as well. So I will turn the floor over to Kendra and welcome you again.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Borough Council members. Good evening, public. My name is Kendra Lilly. I'm a professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I must admit this is the first annexation report that I ever had to put together. I've been doing this for over 30 years. It was an interesting study. Essentially, what I looked at was really the planning and zoning impact of an annexation of South Seaside Park into the borough. And this report, which is not certainly as voluminous as the report of 300 pages, but it was very narrow issue. But it's a very big issue because you're annexing in land zoning into the municipality, and you also have a master plan, your own master plan that has specific goals and objectives that we have to look at and understand whether there's a consistency or an inconsistency. And part of my recommendation, or not, it's not a recommendation, part of my report is what do you do when you do have inconsistencies? What's the next step? And so part of this report talks about what those inconsistencies are. And while there are some consistencies, I would say generally there are probably more inconsistencies than there are consistencies, both on the zoning side and the planning or the master plan side. And then at the end of the report, towards the end of the report, the body of the report talks to what are those action items that need to occur that if the governing body moves forward and votes to annex in, what needs to happen on the planning side and the zoning side moving into the future to ensure that when that area is annexed into the municipality, that there is a consistency that occurs. So I'm just going to go briefly through some highlights of the report and, of course, be able to answer any of the questions. I relied upon some of the demographic data that was issued by another planner, Scott Bauman. He did the South Seaside Park annexation study. It was extremely comprehensive. It went beyond just a planning review and a zoning review, but provided a lot of demographic data that I didn't need to reproduce. And so it's an appendix to the report. It uses 2025 census data, 2000 census data, 2020 census data, and generally I have summarized some of the interesting facts that come from that comparison. So what we looked at was what does this municipality look like if the South Seaside Park were annexed in? You'd see a 40% increase in your land area. You'd see a 25% increase in your population. You'd see a 52% increase in housing units. You would see a 12% increase in population density. You would see a 114% increase in what's known as moderate income households. Moderate income households range, depending upon the size of the household, between 1 person to 5 persons, and that ranges about $70,000 per year to about $112,000 per year, depending upon the household size. So you would increase your household income 22%, the increase in your owner-occupied housing units, a 13% increase in your renter-occupied housing units, and a 170% increase in occupied housing units with 10 or more units in a building. What basically that means is that you would increase the number of multifamily buildings within the municipality. So essentially what that means generally is that you would certainly see more diverse housing stock that would come into the municipality. You could also see a more economically diverse population. There would be an increase in, as I said, owner-occupied housing units, which bolsters the existing character of Seaside Park Borough, but the reduced housing values also allow for a different housing type, so giving more opportunities for different housing units. I then went in through a zoning analysis, as the mayor had indicated, and we list the number of zones. There are 9 zones in South Seaside Park as compared to 4. Just those numbers alone indicate there will be an inconsistency. Matching up zones is going to be very, very challenging. And so while there will be a placeholder, if this does move forward, that you would adopt their existing zoning districts, there will need to be an analysis. I think not only as it relates to how these zoning districts mesh together, but even the zoning districts for South Seaside Park, there's probably a lot of existing inconsistencies there with what's existing on the land uses occurring currently. So that is going to be certainly a big task for the future. I provided the analysis between the key differences between the residential districts and the non-residential districts. Generally, as I indicated, you would certainly experience diverse residential dwelling types and additional commercial uses that are not currently in the zoning ordinance now, and certainly has the potential for leading to a more resilient community, especially on the economic side, as we just heard, and a more diverse makeup. But there are inconsistencies, no doubt about that, that would have to be addressed. I then went into the master plan consistencies. So in a municipality, a town has a master plan. That master plan is your vision for your town. The zoning that's adopted implements that vision. So there's goals and objectives that go into the master plan. I provided not only general goals and objectives in your master plan, but I specifically looked at your land use plan and went through those main goals and objectives. And I'm not going to go through those tonight, but essentially what was found as I went through each individual goal and objective is that probably other than maybe 1 or 2 objectives, there are inconsistencies. And I provided recommended action items with the goal of if this annexation were to go forward, you would want to have a consistency across the entire municipality, the existing borough, and then the new piece of South Seaside Park that would come into the borough. And those recommended action items are all the way at the bottom of the page, the report, which is 14 and 15. Essentially, a couple of things that would need to happen. One is that you'd certainly have to create a whole new land use analysis map, parcel by parcel, looking at South Seaside Park. specifically in the residential districts, specifically in the commercial districts, have to take a look at those inconsistencies with the goals and objectives and prepare reports. And essentially, you would be updating your entire master plan, in my opinion. You would have to update your land use plan, you have to update your circulation element. There's a lot of objectives, with regards to parking circulation. You are bringing in new land uses that you didn't necessarily have to deal with before. Hotels where you have parking, certainly near Island Beach State Park. So there would be a lot of, I think, concentration on parking, circulation, that type of thing as you're starting to take a look at, and pedestrian parking, bicycle, multimodal type of transportation. How are you going to deal with that? Whether or not you need to have any increase in capital expenses, and that's all going to be dependent upon, in my opinion, a process that requires the public to be a part of it. Any master plan process through municipal land use law requires public input, and it is a time-consuming process. It's not only time-consuming, but it is costly. And so you're really updating your entire master plan and then really looking at the master plan first, and then that really kind of dovetails into the zoning ordinances. So while it will certainly require a full update to the master plan and the zoning ordinance, because of these inconsistencies, that basically is my, it's not necessarily a recommendation, but my opinion that these are the steps that you would have to take to create consistency. And to do that correctly and in accordance with the municipal land use law, it will take time because you would want public input into every step of that process.
Thank you, Kendra. With that, what was contemplated for this evening's informational session would be to allow any public comments or questions, and having the professionals who assisted the governing body along the way is what we had in mind, to provide that professional input and assistance. As per the Open Public Meetings Act, if anyone has a comment or question, if you could please step forth and give your name and address into the microphone, and we will start with that.
Mayor, may I have one?
Yes.
There's obviously many people here who don't normally come to council meetings. So for the benefit of those of you who are new, I just want to let everyone know we do have a resolution that permits 5 minutes for public comment, each public comment, 5 minutes or less.
Good, this will be less than 5 minutes. James Fulcomer, 356 Roberts Avenue, Seaside Park, that's my address. My question is, what is the value of all the property and all the assets owned by Berkeley Township?
The value of the properties located within the South
The
Seaside
entire
Park,
Berkeley Township.
all of Berkeley Township.
Right,
What's owned by Berkeley?
yes. That study has not been done, I presume, based on what you just said.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
have to find it.
Am I correct?
We have that information.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, we have the total rateable base of Berkeley Township because
But
as,
that's not what I'm talking about, the rainbow base. I'm talking about the Berkeley Township Sewers Authority, their golf course.
yeah, that
how much
wasn't
is
part of
that
our
value?
study.
All the buildings, all the police cars, all the fire trucks, all the roads that they own.
That wasn't part of our study, sir.
Oh, because
We were looking at the-
I asked that because in your study, you make reference to the possibility of Seaside Park assuming part of the debt of Berkeley Township based on the rainbows in South Seaside Park.
Correct.
All right. Now, if that generates the rainbows in Seaside Park, create under the law an argument for Berkeley Township to assume a part of the debt based on those rainbows, what about the ownership of all the assets of Berkeley Township, which I'm sure is far more considerable than the debt, as an argument that can be used should there be an impasse in the negotiations between the commissioners of the two municipalities. At that point, you go, as you know, to the commissioners appointed by the court. And I think a very important argument when dealing with those commissioners is that Berkeley Township has a certain value of property that it owns, and that it should be taken into consideration in the assumption of debt by Seaside Park. That's all I have to ask. And since you don't have the answers, it's something that should be looked into in terms of any negotiations with Berkeley. Should Seaside Park annex South Seaside Park? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Did you want me to?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Roberts.
So just to answer your question, that's a very astute point that you made, and we did address that in our report, where we recommended 3 different scenarios as to how debt could be apportioned. We also recommend there should be some type of an offset credit for the total value of Berkeley Township's fixed assets. And we didn't make that number up. The numbers for the fixed assets came from Berkeley Township's audit report, so they were their numbers. So we're in sync with you on that, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph?
Tom Joseph, 704 South Bayview Avenue in Seaside Park, current Seaside Park. Let me start by saying I read the report. It took way longer than it should have, but I did not come away with any reason why I should be anything other than in favor of annexation. So just for context, nothing I'm about to say affects the fact that what I read says, yes, we should do this. Now, I'm going to deal with just one issue. At the last of the 2 public information sessions, I asked a question that I was hoping would be answered in the report, which is, if we take our water utility and what South Seaside Park has, Shore Water, which is their water utility, and we put those together somehow or other, do we still need well 11? And for those of you who live here and been around, well 11 is the proposed well to be drilled on the Desert Palm lot up on Ocean Avenue that's currently occupied by a derelict motel. Okay. When I got to the report, what I discovered is it said over and over again, and I'm going to do everything in millions of gallons per month, because you guys flip back and forth between units enough to make it confusing, and I'm not going to do that. It says that we have a capacity in Seaside Park of 13 million gallons per month, and a peak demand, and typically in July, on the worst year we've had, and it gives 3 or 4 years worth of data or whatever, of 18 million gallons per month. So we apparently have a shortfall of roughly 5 million gallons per month in July and maybe August and maybe even June for all I know. So that shortfall we apparently deal with by making 5 million gallons of water appear out of thin air. The report doesn't deal with how that happens. I came away thinking that's insane. So I went to the material that RVE presented for the public meeting that we held for the Desert Palm well 11. And they prepared a variety of reports, including a level 2 environmental study and whatnot. And what they indicated is well 6 operates with a capacity of 17 million gallons per month. Wells 8 and 9, any one of which can operate at one time, each have a capacity of 13 million gallons per month, suggesting that they only looked at the data for well 8, say, or well 9, but not the complete capability. We will write off well 10 as if it doesn't exist, because it might as well not exist. So we have, according to RVE, in numerous places in their documents that they presented at that public meeting, 30 million gallons per month of capacity. If one of those wells should fail, we need some excess, because the other one doesn't handle that 18 million by itself. So, South Seaside Park, according to the report, has a capability of 18 or 19 million gallons per month, only 9 or 10 of which is consumed at the peak of the summer by South Seaside Park, suggesting they have an excess of 9 million gallons per month. That 9 million gallons plus either well 8 or well 6 will be sufficient to supply the 18 million gallons that we need in the summer. So my reading of the data, if I believe RVE's numbers, and I have no reason not to, and I certainly hope they're right, because otherwise that public meeting you guys held needs to be held all over again, because those numbers are all over those reports, and if they're wrong, that meeting was a waste of time, and I don't believe that for a minute. We have sufficient capacity between South Seaside Park's capabilities and ours to meet our needs, including in the event of a well failure. The RVE report also says our mains are interconnected to both Seaside Heights on the north and South Seaside Park on the south. The report I just read says one of the expenses we'll encounter as we go forward is if we're going to need to use them, we'll have to interconnect the systems. I'm not an expert. I don't know the degree to which we're already connected or not, but RVE certainly believed we were. So I don't think that's real either. It makes sense that we would be. So I came away with the conclusion that one of the benefits we get from the annexation is, frankly, we no longer need well 11. That's a several $1 million build and drill and whatnot, and it eliminates the need to take a block-long lot on Ocean Avenue and destroy a third of it or a half of it by plunking a well down on it. So I looked at that and said, if they'd done their study right, we'd be celebrating that. And that's several $1 million and several millions in extra ratables we'll get. That will, thank you, I'm done. Okay, you get the idea.
Thank you.
Mayor, with your permission, we'd like to have our utility expert
Yes, sir.
address those
So
comments.
NJDEP on firm capacity.
I'm sorry, for the record, your
Your
name.
name,
Oh,
sir?
I'm sorry.
And use the mic, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Gary Abzarni. I am a licensed operator, a T4W4C4 from the state of New Jersey. So when you talked about all your wells, you said that if you added up your wells, you would have an additional amount of water, which is absolutely true. The state of New Jersey defines firm capacity as taking your largest well offline, because one could fail. And that's where your deficit came from, because you had to take your largest well off. You are currently doing main replacement, which is tightening up all your leaks, which you are slowly gaining capacity back again. So what the borough has been doing is using the New Jersey Infrastructure Trust loan, which you're getting principal forgiveness. And as you replace the water main, you're losing less water through leaks. But your well still needs to be done. Nevertheless, Shore Water is a private entity. You will not be grabbing Shore Water. So that is a private company, so you cannot just take that for any annexation. So that is a separate issue. The interconnections don't have all meters and the proper pits to read all that water. It's basically an emergency interconnection. So you'd want to rebuild those interconnections, and that was the cost we were talking about, looping them back together. So you have the proper amount of flow and capacity coming through those interconnections.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
Can I comment on that?
If we have any other public comments? Yes, Shirley?
Shirley Kressel, 700 North Bayview Avenue. I did not read all of that report. I read something about Central Regional's increase. Now, I thought I read that it could increase by 62%. Why? It seemed like an awful lot.
Readables?
Yeah, it's a good question because the apportionment is based on ratables. So the good news is, Seaside Park could.
I'm sorry, could you bring the microphone back over here, please? Thank you.
Oh, I thought I was loud. I'm sorry.
No, you were.
So the good news is Seaside Park, if the annexation were to go through, gains a bunch of rateables. The bad news is that the apportionment based for county taxes, based for the regional school district, is based on rateables. And even though, despite the fact that South Seaside Park only brings 3 incremental students into the regional school system, the school tax is projected to go up over $3 million.
What?
That's not our formula.
All right, yeah, I know, that's yours.
I think there's a large caveat.
Wait,
I'm not taking Shirley's time here. But anything to do with the regional school tax gets somewhat of a caveat right now that actually, as the report was being finalized and distributed, right then and there, a whole new development occurred from a legal perspective and a factual perspective. And you ask some of the attorneys involved in it, and there's no definitive answer of what might occur. But there is a study out there that has an impact that I'm told, but I can defer to Gene on that. I think it first gets looked at by the Central Regional School Board, then depending on their action, it would go to the state commissioner. And ultimately, that has a bearing on how the district might be funded, what the district would consist of. So there's a whole lot of moving parts from a legal perspective.
Basically, we had asked for the report, in the report, for basically the most conservative response. So there, as the mayor had stated, there are changes that are possible that could have a positive impact in the sense that there would be less of an increase and less payment overall. But for the report and for the public to really, we have to deal with the universe that we have right now. So we had asked for the most conservative.
And just accurate, like right now, since South Seaside is part of Berkeley Township, they don't pay anything near what we've been paying, right? But now they will be up there with us? Like, we pay over 200,000 per student, I think it's more
It's
than
not
that.
based on per student, that's the problem with when you use that as the denominator. It's not
But what I
based
mean
on
is,
per
does,
student.
on their tax bill, South Seaside Park right now, because they're Berkeley Township, they're on a different formula than what we are.
Different, correct.
Just wait. Okay, one other thing that got me confused, did you want to?
We have an expert here. No, we have our representative to the Central Regional School District.
Certainly not an expert. And what I have to say is basically,
For the record.
sorry, Joanne Penn, 208 Cape Court, Seaside Park. I am the representative to Central Regional from Seaside Park. We did have a meeting last night and nothing was discussed at all. And I believe you are correct. There's been a lot of components to this, but I believe you're correct there that it does go to the board first. But unless the board puts it on its agenda, it doesn't have to go anywhere. That's my understanding. And right now, it's kind of like nowhere.
That's my understanding.
Needs no changes right now.
Well, thank you for reporting and thank you for your service on the board. Charlie?
Okay, the other thing was when you mentioned transition over time, like, if we're responsible like the next day, how are we doing, don't we have to pick up their garbage?
Yes.
And how is that gonna be done if we can't get down their street because the garbage truck's too long?
Going to be
Down there,
It's going to be a challenge.
You can, the borough could contract with a private contractor to pick up garbage in the interim. So there's different methods to do transitional
That's why I wasn't sure what the transition over time was.
Well,
unfortunately,
garbage,
because this is
basically, what I was saying in the beginning about the patients is, we'll do something and do the best that we can, but that, what happens on day one is not gonna be what service provision looks like, 3 years from now.
Okay.
That's really over time,
Okay.
because it's not feasible from a practical standpoint, or a procurement standpoint, or financial standpoint, and also we need to figure out what we're dealing with. So that's where the patience is gonna come in.
And the only thing that confused me on the whole thing is, like you said in the beginning, how, the property tax thing could come down. And then there's all these other expenses that are now coming in, like, are we really going to save money? And you don't have to answer that, but it's just my confusion in my head that, it's supposed to come down. And then we got the planning board stuff that's gonna be done, and we have to buy this, and our payroll's gonna be skyrocket up. And I know we're taking in their money, but it just seems like a lot of expense, and I have to roll that around. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
Hi, Kathy Spadafino, 59th Avenue. Getting back to the Central Regional, on page 190 of your report, you mentioned another option, which is that Seaside Park could withdraw from the regional district, start a non-operating school district, and pay tuition on a send receive basis. I wondered, I don't know if they talked about it. Some of us went to the meeting at Central Regional when that whole K-12 thing was being discussed, and they also stated that as a possibility for a town like Seaside Park that is very heavy on the property value and very light on the student enrollment. I wondered if, Joanne, if the council has thoughts about that.
You can't automatically do it, you have to petition to do
Right,
it.
I understand it's a process, but have you thought about going down that avenue?
Mayor, if I may, I was at that meeting as well. What, in order to do that, and from what I believe from the feasibility study, is if the Central Regional School Board decides to go through with the regionalization and it goes to a referendum for Seaside Park, then we can vote no, and then we can go and enter the send receive. But until that process actually goes into effect, we're not able to do that unless that process takes place.
But that's the K-12 idea. In page 190 of your report, that was not even brought up. This was saying we could do that now.
No.
If I'm-
No.
No? Problematic.
Yes. Any other comments? Yes, Edie?
Edie Clay, 48 11th Avenue. Okay, I'm a little confused. A lot confused. Do you anticipate that the first reading of this ordinance is going to be in 2 weeks? Because I think Ms. Cipriani alluded to the date of March 20th.
Yeah, I mean, that has been discussed, obviously, that's up to the governing body.
Now,
It's March 19th.
would
The
that,
zoning ordinances have been introduced.
okay, would that be the ordinance that would say yes annexation or no annexation? Is that what that ordinance would be? Okay, since there are a lot of unknowns, and the school being one of them, and some of these other costs, why does this ordinance need to be introduced in 2 weeks? Why does the legislation require that once you get a study, then 2 weeks later you have to have, I mean, why couldn't we wait, like, I don't even know how much time it would take to maybe figure out these things, to see what the school's gonna do, to see what this is doing, see what the master plan and all of that. Why do we have to hurry up and do this in just 2 weeks?
So the statute does not require that in terms of whether it's a good idea to take additional time or not. Some of these things, you talk about looking into the planning and whether or not to make the zoning. As Ms. Lealy had said, that there is a significant cost attached to that. So it's one of those things, I think, on which reasonable minds can differ. If you want to go ahead and incur those costs without knowing whether or not you're going to go forward, then that is a process that the law would permit. Certainly, reasonable minds could also say it's better to decide that essential question before you start incurring those costs. So that's really, it cuts either way.
I mean, I'm not for it or against it, because I still don't understand a lot of it. wouldn't there be some kind of like ballpark figure as to what it would cost to redo the master plan? I mean, is it gonna, and I'm gonna exaggerate to make a point, is it gonna cost $10 or is it gonna cost $10 million? You know, isn't there?
I think somewhere in between.
Ms.
Lily is definitely the best person to give that
You're
estimate.
probably in about the $100,000 range.
Okay, well, and I'm not saying it's not, because I don't know the first thing about that either. I was a middle school teacher. You want to know anything about the world geography, I'm your guy. But I guess what I'm asking is, would it be possible to kind of put these tentative costs on the table and see? I don't know, it just seems to me like we're rushing into this, and like I said, it's not that I'm for or against it. I just wondered, do you people have enough information to go forward with this in just 2 weeks? That's my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One issue you mentioned, and I can be as certain as one could be, it was to wait until the school tax issue has been decided. That I think we can all agree on. Will not be decided 2 weeks, 2 months, and I could fill in some more blanks thereafter. We've already heard it has not even been yet discussed on the agenda at the Central Regional School Board level, much less any referral to the New Jersey Department of Education. So where we are, and there's been a development, as we all know, within the last week alone, that Ocean Gate closed their schools, so there's a different factor. There are all moving parts with the school situation and the taxes. So it's unfortunate, and Seaside Park's perspective, we haven't been treated fairly in terms of the taxation, but we are fortunate to have a fine school that's been there for many, many years. So, any other comment? Yes. Oh. But two at once.
Denise Corey, 33 6th Avenue. I guess from a standpoint of the budget is coming up as well, are you building contingencies into the next year's budget based on the fact that how this works, we might be in a little flux, and then you're gonna, so there's like contingency money going into the budget, so, because the way this looks, and the dates, and then the Team 3 has to meet and all that, it seems like you might be passing a budget that doesn't correctly take into account the money that's gonna need to be spent on equipment, police officers and things, and upgrading radios. So, are you simultaneously working on the budget? Will there be an extension for the budget?
I believe, and we spoke with our council, we will have an adopted budget probably by the time this goes through. We can ask to amend that budget if annexation goes through.
Okay. And your report, should I have gone to a planning board meeting to get that, or how would I get a copy of that?
I believe it's on the website.
Yes, that one is also on the website?
It's
All
all
right,
been
I
posted for a long time.
And then, this is just and this is for the South Seaside part of the room. How does this affect them voting in the primary? Where does this put them when it turns over with the statutory of the printing of the ballots and whatever? What if they're in their home and they get a Berkeley ballot? Where are they gonna vote? How does that all change into the system so their voting is seamless and they're not disenfranchised in any way?
I can only tell you that for the legal part of it, if it were to take place, when the ordinance is effective, they are now residents of Seaside Park and they would vote in Seaside Park. In terms of what the Board of Elections, obviously that information would be provided to the Board of Elections, and there would have to be a polling place available for them to vote in person. In terms of, hopefully that information would get out so they would not receive a Berkeley ballot.
Who would be ultimately responsible for that?
Board of Elections. That's a Board of Elections.
So they would be made aware that Team 3 is meeting and they're us now, so that there's no sort of gray area, because you'd hate to see anyone.
Yeah, so I want to be clear that the 3-person teams have no impact on residency. I mean, the change, the annexation is effective on the effective date of the ordinance. So as of that effective date, that South Seaside Park would be part of Seaside Park, and those residents would be residents of Seaside Park for voting purposes, et cetera, and for tax purposes and everything. What the 2-3-person teams, or Team 3, or whatever you call it, Team 3, I like it. Team 3, what they would be arguing about, or maybe just agreeing beautifully in a magical world, would be sort of, the assignment of debt, how it would be paid, what that amount would be, any things could be discussed as there was an allusion to property owned by Berkeley Township. They could say, we have this, we think that you should take it, we, have those discussions. If there is not agreement, then that's, again, they have 60 days, it goes out to the court. That is about money and some amount of money that Seaside Park will then owe to Berkeley Township, and then it would be, that part of that, what it gets determined is payment, how that we paid over time. And that's part of what either the Team 3 or the court appointed commissioners would be deciding. But that would not affect whether or not the annexation took place. The annexation takes place on the effective date of the ordinance.
So just so they don't get lost in the voting shuffle, please, because I think that's
a
tragedy if that happens. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Phil Nicastro, 41 12th Avenue, Seaside Park. Just a couple of quick questions. The tax rate calculations that are being done, are they done on the overall tax rate?
Okay, so we're talking about tax rate calculations.
Reduction, the
Please
40%.
turn your head over that
The 40% reduction or 50% reduction, is that based on the total tax rate, or is that just on the municipal tax rate?
Municipal.
So it's only the municipal tax rate?
Only municipal.
So the question I have to ask you is so, for example, on the average in Seaside Park, what kind of dollar savings is that projected to be? Because we just pay a total tax bill, right? We kind of look at the breakdown by county, by school, by municipality. But what's the average municipal tax rate for the average homeowner, and what are we talking about in real dollars? I know my total tax bill, and I say 40% on my number, it's a pretty big number. But I know the municipal shares, usually the smallest one, the county is one of the smallest parts. Do we know that? We do know?
33%.
I'm not clear, I'll say it again.
I don't think we calculated.
No, we didn't do the savings perhaps.
So the overall tax is going to increase by about 2.8%.
Let me restate my question, and you can come up. Sure. My question is this. The 40 to 50% reduction that was represented here tonight, is that on the municipal tax rate? And the answer was yes, not on the school tax rate, not on the county tax rate. So I'm asking a question to the average Seaside Park homeowner, how much is the municipal tax rate on average?
I would say between 20 to 25%.
Your name, sir?
My name is Joe Fruitti, part of the strategy group.
Yes.
And like I said, I would estimate between 20 and 25% overall deduction.
So what does that mean in real dollars?
Well, it depends on the tax bill.
What's the average? We know what averages are.
I'll just take the tax bill and reduce it by about 20%.
Okay, so if someone's paying $10,000 a year in taxes, they have $2,000 savings?
I would say so.
$10,000 in their municipal tax rate?
Right, in total taxes.
Oh, total tax?
Total tax.
So 40 to 50% on the municipal tax rate, 20 to 25% on the overall tax rate. And do we know an average, I'm sure you've done this, is there an average tax bill? What's the average tax bill?
I don't have it.
That has that?
Yeah.
The reason why
We're kind of losing.
Yeah, this is losing. The question is, what is the effect on the municipal tax rate? I don't have, you have their bill, you have the percentage of the local tax, school tax, central region tax.
I understand. I'm just curious, when we talk about 40 to 50% of what, that's all. And what we're talking about is 40% on the municipal tax rate.
That's what
So
the answer
everybody,
given, yes.
right, so everybody can go home, look at their tax bill, see how much it has municipal rate, and we could be talking about a 25% reduction in that number. And I suspect that number is probably going to be somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 homeowner. That would be a good number to put out there, that's all. It's one more question I'm done.
So if you be just beg our indulgence, we'll get the information.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Great. And I got one more question. And this may have been answered, and I may not have understood it. South Seaside Park is part of Berkeley Township now, and they are invested in Berkeley Township. When they leave to come somewhere else, are they entitled to something from Berkeley as they pull out? Because they've obviously paid into Berkeley Township for a number of years.
No.
No. Because I'm a school guy, I'm in the school business, so I know there's a little bit of similarities and there's not. So there's nothing, so Berkeley pulling out, Seaside Park can expect nothing from Berkeley Township if in fact South Seaside Park pulls out and comes here.
If South Seaside Park, if the governing body votes to accept South Seaside Park in as part of Seaside Park, then there will be discussion between Seaside Park and Berkeley Township as to sort of the financial arrangements. The statute provides that we would take on, Seaside Park would take on some portion of Berkeley Township's debt that was attributable to South Seaside Park, if any, I don't know that right now, and then there would be discussion about other aspects. I thought what you were asking is if the people of South Seaside Park could expect any money back from Berkeley.
No, I didn't mean that. I meant to come into Seaside Park. I didn't mean it into the.
Yeah, no, and that will be a discussion. That's one of the things, but it is also likely that it would go the other way.
Yeah. And just one last piece.
Or it may just, equalize out.
One last piece before I leave. I believe in your calculations, you estimated this, I'm going to look to, you estimated the school tax based on a current school tax structure. Am I correct? Central and all that stuff. That's a smart thing to do because regionalizations, consolidations are far and few between. Very far and few between. Thank you for the time.
So just to answer that question about the school tax, the information that we use in our report came from the school district.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So, and then Sharon.
Again, I apologize for not having this answer off the top of my head. Our tax guy was supposed to be here tonight and had a medical issue. But I knew it was in the report. It's on page 184. So property class 1, the current average annual municipal taxes are about $86.90. The estimated post-annexation annual municipal taxes would be $42.58. For class 2 properties, $99.50 versus $52.94.
That's the overall tax.
Yes.
The municipal tax. Yeah, and then property class 4, 11,919 going down to 8,793.
So what percentage is that roughly? Is that 25%? 40?
1 second.
I'm sure you have it, right?
Yeah, it's on the report.
I only read the first 178 pages.
You know what? You just, a couple more. For class 1, it's at 51%. For class 2, it's 46%. For class 4, it's 26%.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Two other, yes, sir. Then we have the back.
Carlo Rubozio, 47 7th Avenue, just to get further clarification on the whole tax question. I think the report might have been a little misleading because I think it indicated that it was for the total tax bill, but now you've clarified it's just for the municipal portion that it will go down. All right, am I understanding that correctly now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So then we also heard that the cost for the school, regional school, is going to go up. So does that mean that the Seaside Park the school portion of our taxes might go up and then offset what went down on the municipal side and essentially either wipe it out, or we could still see an increase in total taxes based on what we have to absorb from the regional school?
Do we have the total taxes?
I don't think we do.
The regional school is going to go up by approximately $3 million. So that's got to be picked up from somebody. But it's going to be offset by over $10 million of tax proceeds. Sorry, 10 million? Tax proceeds, okay. Tax increase, property tax increase from South Seaside Park. So,
Not increase, tax collect.
Revenue.
Not increase. Does the report indicate that the South Seaside Park taxes are going down as well?
Yes.
Yes. So they're both going down. Everybody's taxes are going down, but we're having an increase in costs. both from
You
the
have an
regional
increase in
side.
cost, but you also have an increase in revenue taxes,
Okay,
which offsets the increase in cost.
okay. Okay, so maybe a new calculation on the net, potential decrease in taxes would be helpful to everybody, because right now, the number we're hearing is 40 to 51%, but that's not really accurate in the total tax bill. We all think about our taxes as the total tax bill, and it'd be helpful to understand what the net effect is going to be. It might be zero, given the increases in, school taxes going up, and, based on the total breakdown of our county, municipal, and
I thought
school
you said
tax.
there was a $7 million swing.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's clear.
Did you say yes?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know if everybody could hear, and I'm wary about saying this because I am not a math person, but I think that what if you want
Yes, there's additional costs. 3 million is for the regional school taxes, also county tax increases, there's also appropriation increases. So all the increases are offset by the additional revenue by about $2.4 million.
So there's 2.4 more, like, to the good?
Your appropriation,
3 million in increases in just the school.
the amount to be raised by taxation will go down by $2.4 million.
There you go, that's.
The net? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
both
Yes.
overall taxes and municipal taxes.
Yes. Bobby Ring, 119
Yes.
Surf Drive, South Seaside Park.
Yes.
I want to point you guys to pages 200 and 201 of your report. Ocean County Tax Assessor's website publishes the general tax rate for every municipality in Ocean County. And that general tax rate includes school districts, includes county, includes local taxes. And the rate that is published on that site is 1.735. You make reference to that on the bottom of page 200. You say general tax rate for Seaside Park in 2025 is 1.735. Does that rate not include county, school district, and local taxes as indicated on the county tax assessor's website?
No, that's just the county tax.
No, it's the county tax assessors, the general tax rate. The general tax rate is calculated by.
Right.
I believe the municipality's general tax rate was 67 cents. So this 1.735 would be a calculation. This is a calculation of the county rate, the school rate, and the municipal rate.
Correct.
So if you go to page 201, it shows the amount to be raised by taxation, the net taxable value, and the estimated overall tax would be 1.025. It goes on to say, based upon the above post-annexation Seaside Park general tax rate, again, including school, county, and municipal, is estimated to be 1.025, indicating a 40.9 reduction in overall annual taxes. So I'm asking for a confirmation that might contradict what you just said a moment ago. Does this or does this not include county, school, and local taxes? So people are walking away from this meeting with the impression that this 40% reduction only applies to the municipal levy and not to the levy for the county and the school district.
I don't know.
That's overall.
It's a very big deal.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to.
I think they're overall. Yeah, I think this 40% is overall.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, if you look on the Ocean County Tax Assessor's website, they publish the rates for every, the municipal rate's not 1.735.
So I'm not on the finance committee of the council, nor am I a finance expert. I don't even balance my own checkbook. So, caveated with that. But when I read through this, I had to read it 3 times for the very reasons that you asked, that Carlo asked. And being somebody who needs to work it through in my head, sometimes you have to read it 3 or 4 times to get it. And I did make a call to Bill, because it was one of my first questions was, we're saying this, and people are only going to hear 41%. And before we say that, what are all those assumptions? And do we believe all those assumptions? So for me, I'm just going to speak for myself. This is an impact study with information and assumptions that now I need to take and digest and decide, do I believe these assumptions? What assumptions do we maybe as a council want to adjust and say, we don't believe this assumption to be true? And it may not be that same number. So this is a perspective as you provided based on all of your assumptions. And that was my very question. We don't control what the county rate is. We don't control the school formula. We don't control the local school formula. We can control what we spend here within our municipality. I think the way I digested it myself is that once we collect all the revenues that we're currently collecting, plus the future revenues, we offset those with whatever these new expenses are going to be one-time or ongoing, right? You end up with a bucket of money that will be more than, in the scenarios that they've been describing, will be more than what it takes to cover all of those taxes. So therefore, that will become what's, and I'm going to use my words, not anybody else's, available for a tax decrease. In my head right now tonight, I don't know if all of that can or should go to a tax decrease because we don't know. But that's the information, the way I understood it.
There are three different budgets published in the, not budgets, but summations of revenue and expenses. One is a projected budget for the borough for 2026 based upon historical increases. The other is a projected budget taking on the costs that have been projected to increase for the school tax and for county taxes and for annexation. And then there's yet a third that adds in the revenue for that will come from the additional property taxes collected from South Seaside Park residents.
Correct.
So all of the expenses that we've spoken about tonight that are potential expenses have been accounted for in this in one way, shape, or another. This is a really interesting report.
Estimated.
Yeah,
Estimated.
absolutely.
Any of that can change.
I understand that too. Thank you for clarifying that. I had some real quick things I wanted to
Just
say.
let me say something before we move on. On page 208 of the report, it states that the general tax rate will fluctuate between 26 and 51%, dependent on the property class.
Right. So to clarify that, it says the actual tax reduction, not the tax rate.
Right.
Okay. So for those who don't know, Class 2 property is single family to four family. That makes up 91% of the residences in our community. They're estimated to see a 46% reduction based upon what this report projects. So I got my 10 reasons why Seaside Park should adopt this. Number one, operating revenues are meaningful and recurring, right out of the report. Operating expenditures increase but remain manageable and within projected revenue, quoting out of their report. Number three, long-term sustainability is achievable with disciplined financial management, quoted out of your report. The report identifies that some of the personnel that they want to add or suggesting that we add are to fill current vacancies. We're currently down 2 police officers from the authorized amount, and the report identifies that there really should be 3 more DPW employees. So number 4 and number 5 is this will allow us to get Seaside Park back to strength. Number 6, analysis includes all potential costs, including one-time and ongoing costs, including payroll. So all the new folks that have to be hired, police officers going to the police academy, new patrol cars, new radios, everything. The increased ratables in Seaside Park, the ratables will increase in Seaside Park by over $1,788,216,500, or 52% more ratables than currently. This creates, number 8, $10,620,328 in additional real property taxes. Results in all residents of Seaside Park helping to pay. This is a big one too to me because I used to be a member of the fire company. I've retired from that. But the fire company was supplemented through a $35,000 stipend paid by Berkeley Township to Seaside Park to provide fire protection in South Seaside Park. Berkeley Township declined to help pay for the new $1.6 million ladder truck that Seaside Park has purchased for its residents. Now, if annexation occurs, every single person who lives in South Seaside Park will be helping to pay for that $1.6 million ladder truck at a level far in excess of $35,000 that was the stipend. And we do all this by lowering the general tax rate, which I got clarified now, right? It includes everything, which includes local, school, and county taxes by an average of 40.9%. For the Class 2, as I said, that's 91% of the properties in town, lowers that by a potential 46%. And then I got a bonus, number 11. all of this analysis used what I think is very conservative projection. I think you guys even mentioned that, or some, Gene, maybe you mentioned that they were asked to show like worst case scenarios. So with worst case scenarios, there's potential 46% property tax savings. That leaves a very big window for this governing body to say, hey, you know what? With this additional income, maybe we're only going to lower taxes 40% or 35%, and we're going to make some investments in some things that we previously postponed. Previously said we'd like to do that, but we can't afford it. Or some previous things that, other things that need to be looked at. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the report. I enjoyed reading it while I was on vacation last week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, Tom?
Yes, I'm Don Whiteman, 2000 Barnegat Avenue. One thing that no one has talked about, the savings that's going to occur with the elementary school. When you think about it, we pay South Seaside Park about $4 million to Berkeley Township for the elementary school. Since if we go into Seaside Park, that $4 million now, which we're putting out in our taxes, is a savings for just not South Seaside Park, but it would be a savings for both Seaside Park and South Seaside Park. Because as I say, you pay per student. We were paying an awful lot for one of our students, about $4 million to send them to the elementary school. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Any other comments? I'm about to go on the Zoom platform. Yes.
I'll just hold it here. Yeah, I'm going to ask about the zoning. I know money's much more exciting. It gets all the adrenaline up and maybe the zoning. But,
Name and address.
oh, sorry, Kathy Thorpe, 356 Roberts Avenue, South Seaside Park in Berkeley. Okay. A question for Kendra. You did mention that the zoning in South Seaside Park is more diverse and different.
Correct.
Okay. Could you elaborate on that? Just a few minutes. I don't want to take my
Sure,
time away.
no, for sure. So, just if anybody wants to look up on the report itself, it is on page 3 and 4, where it lists all the different zoning districts in South Seaside Park and what the permitted uses are.
Right.
And then there's an analysis of South Seaside Park versus Seaside Park, specifically on the residential side, and what's permitted, what's not permitted.
Yeah, because diversity always means to me a lot of different things. So you use the word diverse, are you just talking about the type of housing perhaps?
Correct.
Yeah.
The type of housing that's permitted, where it's permitted. Some housing is permitted in commercial districts in South Seaside Park, where it isn't necessarily here. Mixed use is permitted in Seaside Park versus non-South Seaside Park.
Mm-hmm.
But so essentially what is going to happen if the annexation goes through is that all of the existing zoning districts will be melded into Seaside Park.
Right.
Temporarily.
Okay.
And then there needs to really be a master plan, right? And so that you can kind of reestablish new zoning districts.
Right. Well, I was just going to point out, because of that, and we understand that some of you may not know, or you probably do, that we in South Seaside Park, even though we have representation, all our representation lives over there. All right? Now, and it was commonly called, known, and still is, we are known as Berkeley Township's cash cow. All right? So in case Berkeley Township decides to have more different zoning, more building, we have no way to make some of them over there understand us over here. And here, even your impact study said that we were very much, a few blocks down, are very much like you folks a few blocks up. Now, if Berkeley decides to change their zoning and have more building, more housing, you have to remember that unless we take a vote, we can't get out of here unless we come through where you guys are. So I want all of the people here and everyone to consider that if you do annex Berkeley Township, no, you're not annexing Berkeley Township. If you annex South Seaside Park, guess who controls the zoning there? You do. And you can keep this entire community and this part of the Barrier Island from where Seaside Park starts all the way down to Island Beach, the delightful, warm, and wonderful community, wonderful beach culture that we have. And I would think that you would all like to be able to control the zoning there to keep everything as nice as it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this is way up.
Hello, Paul DiMartino, 9 9th Avenue. Thanks everyone for your time, thanks for your great study. But I gotta tell you, I'm confused as I've ever been in my life. Questions have not been answered with the taxation stuff. It's very unclear to me. I'm a pretty intelligent guy. Not as intelligent as my friend Phil, but I'm pretty intelligent. We talked about the tax reduction, 40% to 50%. At first, you said, Mr. Purdy,
Yes.
that it was on the municipal tax. Now we're hearing it's on the whole tax. And you know what? Quite frankly, it doesn't even matter what you say. There's confusion. If anyone here on the board, because you're going to be making the decision, would make a decision whether or not to marry their partner with the data that you have right now, you're all crazy. If anyone here would make a decision to buy a home for $1 million or $2 million with the data that you have right now, I'm not downing any of your information, but to look it over, to comprehend it, to understand it clearly, you're making a mistake. Why is the rush to do the ordinance, if the government's not forcing us, by March 19th? I would suggest, Mayor and Government Board, you represent us people, to give this more time, get your information that you need and understand clearly, so there's no, I'm not really sure, let's page through this and let's page through that. Let's make a good decision. That 10 years from now, after 10 years of hard work by South Seaside Park, which I commend them for continuing their efforts, and they got through to the New Jersey Supreme Court finally, let's make some time. I'm not taking 10 years. I'm just saying don't do this important decision in 2 weeks.
Any other comments in the room? Yes, Gail?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Just to clarify on a couple of things. South Seaside Park border, Gail Coleman, 1001 Southwest Central Ave, Seaside Park. How you doing? South Seaside Park, Shore Water Company, and the Borough of Seaside Heights, we do have emergency where we can connect. When we had the boardwalk fire and Superstorm Sandy, South Seaside Park Shore Water helped us, and as well as Seaside Heights. So any of that should not be a concern as far as backup water. As far as the police department, we cover down there all the time. I see the cars, whether I'm walking my dogs or looking out my windows at my house. I have a glass fishbowl. And I see our cars going down there. God bless, I'm glad we could do it. I don't want it to turn into what it was 15 years ago, where we were always covering there for Berkeley Township with no compensation. So with that being said, I don't really know if we need to hire 5 more police officers. And I understand we're down 2 with the former chief and Lieutenant Confederate out. So, but that can be addressed down the road. Those are the only 2 things that I have to say about right now. And then as far as the Central Regional thing, there's no way that we're going to get out of that. There's no way. Joanne knows. I was on the board. I don't know how many other people here were on the board, but there's no way we're getting out that way currently. There is a way. But if you guys want to talk to me individually, I will tell you individually, there will be a way. It's not going to be conventional. It's going to probably piss off some politicians,
locally, but there is a way. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
I am for South Seaside Park, joining Seaside Park, because there are neighbors. They support our Triborough First Aid Squad, our police departments, our fire departments. They support our local businesses. What's left of some of them now, but anyway. So I'm in favor. So thank you.
Thank you. Before we hear people again, I want to go on. If anyone hasn't spoken and that's in the room here, if not, we'll go into those who may wish to make a comment or ask a question via the Zoom platform. And if anyone does, if you could speak as slowly and clearly as possible and give your name and address into the record.
Hi, Mayor and Council. My name is Amy Herrick, 33 Porter Avenue. I'm a newbie here, so this is my first meeting. And my question is actually quite different from what I've heard, but I'm sure it's somewhat related. 2 days ago, I received...
I hate to cut you off, and I apologize profusely, Ms. Brewer. I've seen your email. I believe you're here, and we do have our planner here, and we have some very important business this evening. In fact, the second reading and hearing on ordinances, and I believe, is that what your name was the same as of the email? It's about what you described as the ramifications, issues associated with the overlay zone?
Correct. So I was invited to this meeting at 7 p.m., so I've been online. So
Yes, and there have been, how many, 59 other people originally online, albeit as the room had 30 vacant chairs when we started, so anyone could have been here, but we did it as an added precaution. Under the Open Public Meetings Act, we've advertised that for a public hearing, which is a very important issue for this town, and it will happen this evening momentarily. So at that time, your comment as to the ordinance, your question will be entertained.
should I go over there right now, or should I?
Either way, you certainly may. There's seats available. If you want to, that would be fine.
Am I okay just to stay online?
Yes, either way is fine. It's been advertised as what's called a hybrid meeting with participation under both forums. Thank you. Any other individuals wish to make a comment or a question that are participating via the Zoom platform?
Yes. My name is Dave Marbach. I live on 14th Avenue in Seaside Park.
Yes, sir.
The last couple of questions here about property taxes were very confusing. I believe the town council and you, Mayor, owe the citizens just a very quick summary of like the property tax impact in ways that we don't understand, like in terms of our bill. And it was not clear to me, it was not clear from the answer to some of the questions about whether the reductions were to the municipal tax or the county. So it's just, what's like, if you were running the company, you would give a best, worst, and median case on what an average overall property tax bill would be to each of the residents of Seaside Park. That's what I would really appreciate to see. And it's been kind of confusing, all the chatter in the background about what the report actually states. So if you could do that the next couple of days, or someone from the consulting firm could do that, that would be greatly appreciated.
They're here, and I see Mr. McRoberts has his hand up, so I'll have him briefly comment.
So, Mayor, the information is in the report, and unfortunately, there's thousands of points of information in the report. Some gets lost in translation. I apologize, as Sharon mentioned, that our tax expert had a medical emergency today, couldn't be here. But what we will do is by Monday morning, we will have for you a pullout section just on property taxes so that it's straightforward and clear and you don't have to filter through the report to see that information.
Yeah, and incorporate them. Just to be very clear on that.
Yes, sir.
When I get my property tax bill, like again, I honestly, by the way, the report I think was very thorough. I clearly understand the municipal tax reduction, but there are three components on my tax bill. I would like to see a best and worst average case for those three, which I think you have the information for, in those three categories: municipal, county, and school tax. Just like my Seaside Park property tax school tax. That would be a great way for me to feel a lot more confident about the path we're undertaking.
We'll try to mirror an average tax bill, like what it actually looks like.
Yeah, we do a courtesy, as you probably are aware, we do a pie chart with our bills. There's actually other components of a tax bill. Yes. There's your central regional, your regional school tax, there's your local tax component of the school, there's the municipal and the county. Am I missing any? We have a lot of experts who are better than I, but they're all part, and we have a pie chart of each percentage. There's a library tax, a county.
Open space?
Open space, that's part of the county.
Yeah.
For 2025, the municipal tax was 39%. The county tax, which included library, health, and green space tax, was 31%. And the regional school tax, including the district or local school tax, was 30%.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone in the room could hear, so sometime on Monday, there'll be a breakdown that as being requested on the tax, sort of the average tax for each area, the county, school, and municipal, that will be placed on the website.
Thank you.
No, thank you, sir. And I said it before, but I should probably repeat it. The regional school tax is a separate entity, and it's very fluid. It's Seaside Park has raised objections over the years in the manner in which it's been imposed. Perhaps those objections will come to fruition if this process continues, what is ongoing, but it's a lengthy one, and it's based in part on the number of students, in part on the number of students even at the lower school, and it's also property evaluations, which was not the basis upon which the regional school was originally formed. It was not based on any kind of overall assessed valuation. It was based on a per pupil basis. But yes.
No, and just to make it clear for everyone too, that like that formula is not the Central Regional School Board did not set that formula. That is a state set formula. So just want to be clear on that, right? You know, everyone's very anti-Central Regional at times, and I know I am biased. I'm an employee of Central Regional, but it is a state formula, not a Central Regional formula, not a Seaside Park formula, a New Jersey formula.
It's a state statute.
State statute, right?
No, that's a good point to include, absolutely. Thank you, sir. And anyone else over the Zoom platform who may wish to speak?
No, that's it, Mayor.
No one else. Yes, Edie?
A totally different question. And I'm not volunteering, but how are you going to choose the 3 people for Team 3?
There's a statute in place, and we've referenced the statute a little bit earlier, whether the manner in which it was put together, very comprehensive in parts, and perhaps leaves some areas that has to have reasonable interpretation otherwise. So I can turn it over to our special counsel to address the topic, but we're premature that has not happened at this moment.
So there's nothing in the statute that requires or dictates who the 3 people will be. Obviously, because it's a financial component, you want to have people who have some, but that's really going to be up to the governing body, and those people will be appointed by resolution. There can be compensation for them, but that's really, going to be up to the governing body who they think will be the Team 3 that will be able to.
So you started, Denise?
Thank
be
you. That
most
was my
effective for the
question.
borough.
Who gets to decide? That was my question.
The governing body.
Thank you for answering.
Any other comments on hearing none? I will thank everyone. Yes, Jay?
Jay Delaney, 1710 North Bayview Avenue in Seaside Park. A couple of questions. First, to the planner. Your report references the Bauman report and attached it as an appendix. There's no indication of a date on that or the purpose for which that was prepared or who commissioned it?
It was prepared for South Seaside Park. And my understanding was that well, not my understanding, in reviewing the report, there was definitely more opinion in that report as to why that particular professional thought it would be a good idea to annex. But I don't know if there was a date on the report or not. I thought there was. But anyway, that was my understanding of they commissioned Mr. Bauman to do that report.
It is Mr. Bauman present or will he be present to take questions on his portion of the report?
Not that I'm aware of. I specifically really narrowed the pieces of the demographics because it's all fact-based information, as well as the comparison of some zoning districts. Other than that, none of the other points in that report or anything that I would have pulled into my report.
It creates a false sense of independent information that was commissioned to reflect Seaside Park's wishes to understand the pros, cons, and impacts. Secondly, I just want to comment in general. We've heard a lot tonight from a significant number of people, and certainly South Seaside Park has been represented. I'm not sure they meet the 40% threshold that reflects the overall addition of tax base that will be added to Seaside Park's tax base as a result of an annexation. But I'm sort of focused on that 40%, particularly given some of the information that's included in the various reports that identifies the South Seaside Park section of Berkeley Township representing 10% of their tax base. And I think most are aware, certainly those from South Seaside Park, are aware of the effort and time and public meetings that were held by Berkeley Township, however flawed the result may have been, according to the court's decisions. But that was an extended period of time. In this case, we're talking about somewhere, depending on what measure one uses, basically a 40 to 60% expansion of Seaside Park. And yes, that has both advantages and disadvantages. But that is a significant change in terms of the operations of the municipality, its tax base, its land area. There's been, I think, a good, healthy discussion tonight on the zoning impacts and the planning impacts, none of which have really been fully vetted, or we have some cost guesstimate, together with all the cost guesstimates that have been presented by government strategies. There are a significant number of underlying assumptions that are, frankly, just that, they're assumptions. The biggest being the school taxes. And the school taxes represent the largest portion of the overall tax impact. So I will echo the comments of some of the previous speakers. There is no rush here. Let me go back to one final point. We've heard from residents of Seaside Park, we've heard from residents of South Seaside Park, but we haven't heard anything from the taxpayers. And as a lifelong resident of Seaside Park and someone who was here through the last annexation questions, in that instance, the governing body sought to include the voices and sentiment of the taxpayers, the property owners of Seaside Park that contribute financially. Most of them have their homes anticipating to either retire here. They spend the better part of their, of the year here, and they haven't been heard. And frankly, given, this is not a criticism, but it's a fact that given this time of year, so many of our residents are not here. Very few of our tax-paying property owners are here on a regular basis. And I think that's a huge voice that needs to be considered. And I hope that this governing body, as representatives of all of the taxpayers, notwithstanding the fact that you're elected by voters, take their concerns into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other comments? Hearing none, I would thank everyone very much for coming Yes, sir.
May I just,
Yes, sir.
respond to the question of timing?
It's not on.
It's not on, maybe.
Oh. Well, let me just,
There you go.
respond to the question of timing.
The longer you wait to adopt an ordinance of annexation, the later you will get a tax cut. Because there are a lot of steps that have to be gone through by the municipal council. And if you wait long enough, instead of getting a tax cut next year, it'll be a year after that, or maybe no tax cut at all.
Thank you, sir. And thank everyone this evening for your comments. And again, as a consultant had noted early on in this process, thank everyone for their civility, for their intelligent comments, questions, and all part of the record in the process. We have a significant meeting yet to go this evening. I'll turn the floor. Are there any other work session comments related to the topic? There should not be, as that was
Expect
the
everyone
sole
to stay, right? Just
topic.
like the priest said, you expect you to stay for the rest of the month.
That was the sole topic of the work session. That now having been concluded, I would entertain a motion. And if everyone could please be as quiet as possible, apparently.
I'm sorry, if I could just ask everyone, as you're leaving, which I can certainly understand, and I kind of wish I were going with you, if you could be as quiet as possible because the meeting is continuing.
And I would entertain a motion to adjourn the work session and then go into the regular meeting.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Council President Wilk, second by Councilmember Toth. Roll call.
Council President Wilk?
Yes.
Councilmember Toth?
Yes.
Councilmember Condos?
Yes.
Councilmember Connor?
Yes.
Councilmember Kraft?
Yes.
Councilmember Rotunda?
Yes.
Motion approved.